Hi and welcome back to another Pilates Flow. We're going to start with some nice breaths here, pressing through the legs, reaching up overhead. And on this next one, we're going to hold it at the top and start to roll down through the spine, vertebra by vertebra, and then walking the hands along the mat to come out to a plank. Let's press back through the legs, send the tailbone high. Chest comes towards the thighs and then extend back out to that nice long plank. Then we're going to walk all the way back towards the feet, rolling on up, arms come up and overhead, and we repeat this once again, taking that nice roll down, walking the hands out along the mat till we find the plank, lifting through the belly, pressing back through those legs, keeping the knees hovered, sending the tailbone high. Try to open out through the chest, through the arms, really press it back, and then walking back to the feet. We're just going to do this another 2 times before we move on into the next exercise. This time, as you come down into your plank position, I want you to hold it nice and strong, pressing the mat away, lifting the belly button to ceiling, and we're going to start to bring the thigh towards the chest. Find a little scoop and tuck of those lower abdominals, almost like a little C curved shape. So thinking about tailbone towards the nose as we drive the thigh upward towards the chest. Keep scooping in those abs, soften the elbows, press that mat away. Almost there. Last ones, and drop the knees, press all the way back. Let's start to introduce a little rotation now. So we're going to go for some thread the needles. So I want you to find a 4-point kneel position, making sure we're nice and stacked, opening out that arm and then threading through, laying down to that shoulder. Really try to rotate and open as much as you can the chest to the side of the room, and then reach all the way through, trying to lay that shoulder down onto the mat with the bottom coming back towards the heels. So we're not moving the hips and opening the hips, we're just getting that rotation through the top half of the body. And then we are going to move it on to the other side in just a moment. Finding that big reach and exhale as you send it through. Once again, hips stay square to the mat. We only find that rotation through the top half of the body. Allowing yourself to sink a little further into that stretch, reach further. Find that extra little bit of rotation using the breath here. We've just got a few more left. Taking your time, taking it in your own pace. Feel free to hang out in one position a little longer than the other. You don't have to flow at the same pace as me. Just finding your final 2 before we meet back in our 4-point kneel. And then we're going to be stepping the legs back out into that plank position. We're going to be taking the right leg and rainbowing it up and over so that it taps behind the heel. So think about coming to the corners of your mat. You're reaching your leg up and over, tapping behind that ankle. So crossing the leg over. From here, we're going to start to tap the knees down to the mat. So it's a little scoop and tuck of those lower abdominals here. Keep pressing that mat away. Keep the inner thighs active, the glutes active. And then we repeat the process once again, tapping the toe behind the ankle, crossing it over here, a little bit of a dip through the hip here. And then we will repeat those knee taps once again down to the mat. Finding that little scoop and lift, really small movement here. So you should only just tap the mat and then you're coming straight back up once again. Stay strong for those final 3 taps, guys. You've got this. And getting ready to release. Well done. Have a nice stretch. Okay, we're going to come around onto our side now. So let's get everything nice and stacked here. And we're going to extend that top leg nice and long. So hip bone on top of hip bone, shoulder on top of shoulder. And then I want you to take that arm and reach it right up and overhead. We're going to send those hips high and think about lifting under those ribs for me. Squeeze the glutes so that the hips come in line with the body. So you don't want to be poking the bottom back behind the body. Squeeze it and send the hips up and slightly forward here. Nice big reach up overhead, and just be careful that that shoulder and elbow are always staying nice and stacked for me. We're going to transition this now into our inner thigh lift. So bend that top leg, extend the bottom, and then we lift that underneath leg now. So using those adductors to raise that leg up and off that mat. So inner thighs really working here. Stay lifted, belly button to backbone, ribs to hips, and stay lifted out of that shoulder. We're going to take some little pulses of that leg in just a moment, holding it there. That's it, squeezing it nice and high. Press, press, press. 4, 3, 2, and 1. We lower it down. We're coming now into our clam position. So bending those knees, you can come down to rest on your mat. Give that top hip a little push away. Let's think about activating the glute first before pressing that knee open. That's what's doing the work here. Open with the glute. Squeeze and find that press open of the thigh. Let's keep the heels connected for me, the toes connected. Press the heels against one another. Think about lifting through that pelvic floor, sliding hip bone to hip bone. Pressing it open. Really nice here, guys. Feel free to rest that hand that's on the hip also on the floor if you want a little bit more stability. Let's keep the tummy active. Keep squeezing with that glute. We're going to find some pulses up the top in just a moment. Here we go, pressing it back. Squeeze that glute, squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. We're going for our clam kickouts next. So you'll be taking that leg in line with the body, back to the clam and closing it down. So just be aware that the leg is in fact extending in line with the body. It tends to creep forward on us. So making sure it's exactly coming out from that hip line in line with the body. So squeeze that glute. Press that thigh open as you close the clam back down. Make sure you're not missing that step. Keep the tummy on, the ribs drawing down, and the hip bone sliding towards each other. Beautiful work here, guys. We're going to hold it at the top. Take some little pulses. Off we go. Squeeze it up. Squeeze it up. Work that glute. Can we then start to find a little sweep forward over that front leg? Use the tummy. Flex the foot and press it all the way back. Notice that the pelvis does not move. It keeps nice and still. Hips stay stacked the whole time. Tummy stays on. Keeping the leg up at that same height as well, not dropping it as we reach it forward and back here. Almost there, guys. I know, glutes on fire. You're doing really well. Keep the breath here. Keep lengthened through both sides of the waist, not collapsing on the mat. We're going to finish this out with some little pulses in front in just a moment. Here we go. Toe comes down towards the floor, and then we lift the heel towards the ceiling. Squeeze, squeeze. Keep extending through sides of waist, lifting through that glute. Almost there. You've got this. Use that breath. Press it out, press it out. And then we're going to send it all the way back. And then you can release. Give it a little punch out. Well done. And we get to do all of that again on the other side. So when you're ready, coming down, stacking everything, shoulders and hips, and reaching that top leg nice and long for me. Arm comes up and overhead. and just making sure that we are stacked shoulder under the elbow, or elbow under the shoulder rather. Lift up and over, send the hips high. Squeezing into the side of the waist here. Glutes are on. Don't let that bottom poke back behind you. You want to keep in that nice side plank shape. Feel the reach up and over and the cinch into the side of the waist here. Really nice, guys, making sure that we're using that breath, especially on this second side. Crossing the top leg over now, we reach for that underneath leg, inner thighs working, keep extending through the toes here. Lift the belly, lift the pelvic floor, use that inner thigh to drive it up towards the ceiling. Exhale, breath each time. And then getting ready to take that little pulse at the top. That's it, hold it high, squeeze, 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 and press. And releasing, really nice. Let's stack it up, get into that nice plank, press that top hip away, come down to your mat. Squeeze the heels, squeeze the toes, use the glute to open the thigh. Not just the hip joint opening and letting that top hip roll back. Keep allowing yourself to find length through both sides of the waist and checking in with yourself, keeping everything nice and stacked and square to the front of the room. Exhaling as we press that thigh open. It's really important that we keep drawing on that breath, especially as we fatigue. Second side is a challenge. We're almost there to find those little pulses at the top. And when we do, I really want you to focus more on that squeeze of the glute, really press into the heels and allow the thigh to press back further just by using the squeeze of that glute. Here we go, pressing, pressing, and pressing, the smallest movement here. And then we get ready to find that kick out. So the same thing as the first side, we want to make sure that that leg is up at the hip height and in line with the body. So it's really easy for the leg to creep forward here. So you must really squeeze into that glute, keeping the hips stacked and the tummy tight. Really nice work here, guys. We're almost there. Home stretch. Keep reaching, keep extending and lengthening. Let's find those pulses. Send it high. Squeeze, squeeze. Tummy stays on. You've got this. Can we find that sweep now? Flex the foot, send it back. Squeeze into that smile of the glute where the bottom meets the back of the thigh. Keeping the hips still. Use the belly to carry the leg forward. Feel the contraction through the abs. Fight to keep those hips stacked. Don't let it go with you. Then press and squeeze it all the way back. Feel the strength through the back of the leg and the squeeze in the glute. Almost there, guys. We're on that home stretch now. We're getting ready to take those little pulses in front in just a moment. Keeping that toe dipped down towards the floor. Let's lift that heel high, press it, squeeze it, find length in that waist. Let's go. Finishing it strong. Don't give up now, you're almost there. Exhale, 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 press, press, press. Send it all the way back and up in line with the body. And then bring it down. Awesome work. Punch it out. Well deserved. Let's come down onto our backs now. Find a tabletop position. We exhale, curl, send the leg long, right, then left, and down to that mat. Keep reaching, extending through those toes. Tabletop position means that nice stacking of the knees above the hips. The shins are parallel, the toes are pointing forward. Let's aim to keep that tailbone nice and heavy into that mat for me. We're curling up and away from that mat, sliding the ribs towards the hips on the exhale breath and drawing the belly button down to the mat. Flattening through the tummy, rather than doming. Let's try to cycle the legs now, holding in that curl, option to come down and rest the head on the mat. We're not here for too much longer. Keep the breath, keep curling upward, lifting and floating the shoulders up and off that mat. Popping the legs down, now we go for our glute bridge, so sending those hips high, driving through the heels. We're going to keep flowing throughout this series, so remember to take breaks where you need to. If it's available, we're going to take a single leg glute bridge now, so one leg floats to tabletop as you drive through that heel, pressing the hips high, alternating the legs, trying not to let the hips dip and rock and roll side to side, thinking about keeping the hips at a level height. Interlock the fingers now behind the head. We're flowing straight into that ab curl, so sliding those ribs now down towards those hip bones. Once again, flattening through the tummy rather than doming here. Using that exhale breath each time, long through the back of the neck, trying to curl up higher with each exhale breath. Almost there. Keep the elbows wide, finish strong, and release it down. Well done, guys. Little windscreen wipers side to side, and when you're ready, let's rock and roll ourselves up and over so that we're coming down onto our tummies. Taking the arms out to the sides of the room, thumbs up, so coming in line with the shoulders. We start to find that squeeze through the mid back as we float the arms away from the floor here, feeling the shoulder blades melt down the back and squeezing into a V shape. Lift the belly button away from the mat, relax through the glutes, backs of legs. It should only be that initiation from the top half of the body, with the belly staying active here. On this next one, we're going to rotate the palms so they face the floor. You're going to sweep them all the way back to the side of the hips, keeping them at a level height all the way through. We then start to introduce a little slight lift of the upper back only, keeping the belly on. So option just to keep the forehead down and keep working the arms, otherwise introducing the upper body. From there, we're going to flip the palms then up to face the ceiling and repeat the same movement. So again, squeezing the shoulders down and back, floating the arms back towards the hips. Keep the fingertips long and slightly anchored down towards the floor so we're not breaking through the wrist. Let's think about that belly button lifting up and away from the mat, especially as we find this squeeze and hold back for some little pulses. Option to bring the forehead back down to the mat and just work the arms here. Keep lifting, keep reaching, find that squeeze of the V down the back here. Almost there, guys, using nice flow of breath and releasing it all the way down. Awesome job. Let's press it back, have a little stretch through the body here, extending the arms forward and long, sinking the bottom back towards the heels. Then we're going to come back and up. We're going to come into a turned out diamond position here with the legs. Float the hips through. Now, if this is not available, you can always come back just to your half plank position here, sending the hips through. We're going into a press, so elbows off at the 45, zip up through the belly. And we want to lower that whole shape towards the floor. You're lowering your chest in between your thumbs, zipping the belly button to the ceiling, squeezing those glutes somewhere in this little diamond shape or half plank position. We're going to lower it all the way down now and come into our skydiver. So squeezing through those glutes, lifting that belly button away from that mat. If you're in that half plank position with the knees more together, you can still achieve this exercise like that, or slightly turn the knees out a little bit more to really be able to activate and squeeze those inner thighs and glutes. Press all the way back up. Let's repeat that same series. So pressing through the arms here, getting those wrists underneath the shoulders, zipping up through the belly, making sure we're nice one long shape, lifting and lowering. Spine meets between the shoulder blades. And then we will lower it all the way back down, coming back into that skydiver position once again. Option to keep the knees closer together. Squeeze through the glutes, lift those thighs off that mat, lift the belly button away from the mat. Doing really well here, guys. Use that exhale breath. And then we're going for a full extension of both arms and legs. We start to take opposite arm, opposite leg up and off the mat. Now this doesn't have to be a really high leg or arm here. You can just literally hover it off your mat. You shouldn't feel this crunch into your lower back. I want you to feel the extension through your glute squeeze and lengthen through your arm, pulling the shoulder down and away from the ear. You're creating a diagonal line from fingertips down to the toes. So it should almost be in this little X shape. And we start to take it into a swim. So both arms and legs going here now. Keep the pelvis still and anchored into that mat. Try not to rock and roll from side to side. If available, can we lift that upper body, otherwise staying on that mat? Let's finish strong here, guys. Reaching those fingers and toes, squeezing those glutes, tummy stays tight. Let's stay strong for 4, for 3, for 2, and 1. You are done. Press it all the way back to your child's pose, releasing through that back. I hope you have enjoyed today's flow. Take time to stretch and have an amazing day.